Welcome to Grace this weekend. Thanks for being here. My name's Ryan, one of the pastors on staff, and I'd love to meet you if we haven't met before. And I want to welcome you into this journey that we started just a few weeks ago called Here to There, and kind of midway into it. And especially if you're a guest, let me give you a little bit of a heads up on what's going on here right now. Is we're kind of in the middle of a bit of a special moment here in our campus. And want to let you know that we're kind of having a family conversation these days about kind of where we're headed, some of where we are, and some of the opportunities that are in front of us that are super exciting. And I want to make sure that you don't feel any pressure as we kind of describe those opportunities and talk those through and talk about kind of the family, what it means to be moving from here to there. And so love that you're here. Make sure to stick around. Just don't feel any pressure at all to respond to anything that we're talking about. But the good side, the upside to being here in this moment is you get a little bit of a flavor of our heartbeat and what we're about, what makes us tick. And we have some really, really neat opportunities in front of us. And we've been talking through those over the last handful of weeks now. And so if you're part of the family of Grace, thanks for physically being here. I asked you to do that over these last couple of weeks, so thanks for showing up and prioritizing that time. I really appreciate that. And I want to invite you as well, if you're watching online, maybe have been for a little bit and haven't made your way physically to be here yet, encourage you to do that maybe the next service or next weekend for sure. And I want to just encourage all of you to know that next weekend we're going to have a bit of a historical moment together. We're going to have a memorable moment for sure as we kind of wrap up this conversation and look together to move forward from here to there. And so make sure to be here if you can. And I think you're going to be super glad that you are. So we've been looking, and if you're just jumping in, let me give you a little bit of a background. So we've been looking at the reality of kind of where we are in that another church has joined us and given us a building, and that has kind of triggered us making a bunch of big decisions. And as we remodel this other building that's about 1.5 miles down the road and make changes to that building and begin to plan to move into that building, that has triggered us to really say, hey, what are we going to be about as we move forward? The why behind that, we wanted to make sure you all understood clearly why we're doing what we're doing, why we believe God is leading us where he's leading us. And so that's what we've been talking about the last few weeks. And really encourage you, if you've missed those conversations, to catch up online. We talked the first week about what it means really for us to make an impact here in our community and talked about some of those opportunities. Last weekend, we talked a lot about us and that this isn't just some kind of corporate church journey that we're asking us all to move on. This is a personal journey that we're inviting you to take, that I'm looking to take personally. And we're saying if you're a part of Grace, then that means that you are in on growing. That you're saying, I want to move. I want to continue to move in my relationship with Jesus. I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to stay put. I want to continue to move from where I am to where I believe God is asking me to go. And we talked a little bit about that last week. And then this week, what we want to do is we want to dive into a conversation about kids and students and the next generation, as we believe deeply and are convicted to invest into the next generation and have some really neat opportunities to do that. And so let me give us a little bit of a background here as to why investing in the next generation is such a big deal and why that matters so much. If we look back into the Old Testament, the nation of Israel tried to prioritize this in kind of a pattern or a habit. It shows up in this awesome song in Psalm 78. And if you have your Bibles, you can open up and watch along here if you want, or you can just look at the screen. And here's what the psalmist says. He says, my people, hear my teaching, listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things, things from of old, things we have heard and known, things our ancestors have told us. Right? So the writer of this song is saying, hey, you guys know this stuff that God has done, the things that he has taught us, and basically how our parents and our grandparents told us about the teaching of God. They transferred this message to us. Right? These things about things we've heard and known, things our ancestors have told us. So we will not hide those teachings, those stories about what God's done. We will not hide them from their descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power and the wonders that he has done. He's saying, guys, remember that we were told by our parents and grandparents all that God has done. And now it's our turn. We're going to tell the next generation and pass that message on over and over again. I remember I was in Israel a bunch of years ago. I got the really awesome opportunity to be in Israel for a few weeks and kind of study the geography of the life of Jesus, and it was awesome. And on the ride back, on a plane ride, I sat by this Jewish young man that is a very traditional Jewish person, right? He lives in the United States, and he was there kind of visiting Israel as well. You know, he had the curls and the whole thing. It was awesome, you know, just getting to talk to him, sit next to him. And we were talking about his life and his lifestyle, and we ended up having an awesome conversation, very respectful, about Jesus, you know, and where Jesus fit into his thoughts and mind. And we were talking about it, and I was fascinated by his response as I led him to a passage in the Bible in the Old Testament that really clearly describes Jesus, Isaiah 53. And I basically said, hey, how do you know that that this isn't Jesus that this passage is talking about? And it was amazing that this stuff clicked right away for him. He said, well, my fathers would have told me. Their fathers would have told them, and their fathers told them. And for him, it made total sense that things were passed down this way. And obviously, you know, we believe that Jesus is the Messiah, and that somewhere along the way, for a variety of reasons, that got disconnected for people. But this idea that the teachings of God, the words of God, the stories about God would be passed on generationally is just part of how God's people have always functioned. It's how the church shares and passes on the stories about the faith and how it continues to move. And there's a piece of culture in the church that is lost in some ways, some of that generational thinking that I think is beautiful in the Jewish heritage. This is the kind of thing that would be normal in that heritage, and something I think is a strength that we want to adopt. He goes on in the psalm, he says, he decreed statutes for Jacob and established the law in Israel, which he commanded our ancestors to teach their children. So the next generation would know them, even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. Right? Somebody told us, and then we told you, and then you should tell somebody, and then they should tell the next ones. And there's right? So the mindset that it's all about me and you'll only live once and it's all right here and all right now, none of that is there, right? Because the thinking, it isn't just about the here and now, it's generational. It's bigger than that. It's longer than that, right? It's an investment of my life to perpetuate the faith into the next generation. He goes on. Then they would put their trust in God and would not forget his deeds, but would keep his commands. They would not be like their ancestors, a stubborn and rebellious generation whose hearts were not loyal to God, whose spirits were not faithful to him. Right? He says, we want to be careful to not kind of break the chain of faith and lose track of that transfer. We want to make sure that on our watch, in our day, in our time, that transfer is as full as we know how to make it. That we want to make sure that people, that children and students in the next generation have our full attention. That they feel the value that they actually have, wow. And that we make sure to transfer the faith to them. That's what he's saying. Right? So that none of that's broken. right? Where a group and a generation looks back and says, I don't know, my parents used to do God stuff, but they never told me about it. Didn't seem that important to them. I guess we'll go do our own thing now. We want it to be said of us that we were diligent about making that transfer and helping that all to happen in a way that is effective and helps make Jesus make sense to kids and students in the here and now. And here's the reality, right? When we do this, when we look at kids and students and next generation leaders and begin to think about our investment into them, really what we're doing is we're investing into the future, right? Say it this way, when you invest in kids and students, you invest in the future. If we care about what happens when we're gone, or what happens when we're old, or what happens after us, then we really have to care about even the not yet born, right? The pregnant bellies that are walking around here, right? The kids who haven't even come out yet, that when we invest into them, we are building and investing into the future. We said this a few weeks ago now, that the reality of where we sit today is frustrating in some ways. Our current experience of life here in America is sometimes frustrating. It's confusing. Where is it headed? Where's the economy going? What about inflation? Will anyone ever be elected that we can be excited about? Right? Those are all questions we're wondering about. I'll talk to my kids sometimes, and there's things out of stock and things are broken and the people can't, right? There's not enough people to work at places. And I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, it didn't really used to be like this. And they're like, sure, I sat with my 88-year-old grandparents for a good chunk of time the other day. And they were telling me about the days that they would just leave the house at dawn and not come back until dark. And they would play and run and go into the woods and have no fear, right? And I brought one of my daughters with me, and she's like, whoa, Dad, like, did that really happen? I'm like, evidently, I wasn't there. I don't know, right? But there's a feeling of angst and frustration with where we are right now. I feel it, you feel it. And the real question is, what do I do about it? What can I do? I'm not running for president. You're not, probably, right? We're not going to go change something at some grand scale, probably. I'm not even sure if that would even be the best solution. And so what we said a few weeks ago is, but what if instead of cursing the darkness, we lit a candle? Right? More than 100 years ago, this pastor, this Reverend William Watkinson said this. Instead of cursing the darkness, light a candle. And this has just gotten my attention. That if a lot of ordinary people like you and me say, you know what? Instead of spinning in worry and frustration and angst and general unhelpfulness, what if we took our energy and just put it into something that we know is going to have an impact? What if we lit a candle? What if we invested in our community, into each other, and into the next generation? What might that do? All I know is if a lot of people did that, that would bring a lot of light. That would start to bring a lot of light. So here's how we envision doing that here at Grace as we move into kind of the next phase, specifically with kids and students, building the next generation. When we look at the reality of where our kids are, we have a lot of kids here. It's fun. right? Our staff told me last week, they're like, Ryan, we're like about out of space, man. Like, how much longer till we move, right? And they're asking me these questions. And we just opened another classroom this week. Our fourth and fifth graders are going to have a new space. And they're like, we're down to the kitchen now. Do you really want to transition the kitchen? I'm like, I don't think quite yet, right? But they're telling me there's kids everywhere. There's babies everywhere. There's pregnant bellies popping up left and right, which is awesome. And I've been a part of Grace for a long time, and I've watched this happen a few times where God begins to gather a campus and people are starting to connect and young families starting to, and then there's what starts to happen is there's a tsunami of children that is coming, like a tsunami of babies. You're like, that sounds scary. I know, it is frightening, right? So this tsunami of babies is coming to us. We're all like, what are we gonna do, right? So we're excited about that, and we need to kind of prepare for it. So there's a few things that we have done and are doing that I think are gonna make us ready for this big wave of children that are on the way. And here's gonna be one of the big ones. We have hired and are hiring this fantastic leader, Hannah Schaefer. She's going to be our director of Power Kids, which is her children's ministry. And she has an awesome training background here at Grace Church. And she is already off and running. And we're watching her thrive in a bunch of ways as she begins to take our ministry to the next level. So through Here to There, we are bringing her onto the team. And of course, supporting her and asking all of us to engage into that. And I think Hannah will get us ready. Hannah also has some phenomenal experience transitioning physical space in a building to make it kid-friendly, right? Kid-ready. So our new building that we're a mile and a half away from, that we're going to be renovating, we're going to have to take big chunks of this big old building. It's about 60 years old, and make it ready for our tsunami of children, okay? And Hannah is going to help us with the design of that and with some great best practices in that. And we want to create some spaces that are secure and make sense and fit with our philosophy of ministry and how we would do things. And all of that needs investment. Hannah, the physical space, right? And of course, moving kind of from here to there. But that big answer for us is an answer to prayer. I've been praying that God would kind of lead to us our kind of permanent leader here, or semi-permanent leader here in the Power Kids space, that we could really help families and children and students really get off the ground in a powerful way. Also, a big piece of what we're looking at as we look at it, investing into the next generation, is we look at student ministries. Our student ministries are a ton of fun right now. I'm not even totally sure what's happened recently. Our student ministry Wednesday night experience has kind of exploded from like 10 kids to 40. I'm like, somebody was like, what percentage growth is that? I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm not great at math. I don't know, but it feels like a lot, right? So our students are jammed. Middle school students are jammed in across the way here in our other room in our student ministry area. And a big part of what I think God is using, of course, is Pastor Aaron and then River, our intern, who just has showed up here in the last. Here's some pictures of some kids here. This is awesome. And here is River. River is a new addition to our team as well, and he is actually funded through all of Grace Church. This is how Grace works and has worked for a long time. I don't know if you know this or not, but all of our campuses kind of like sponsor young leaders to go land at other campuses. So River is paid for by all of our campuses and gifted to us, right? So River is a gift to our church, which is awesome. And he really is. Yeah, you can clap for that. That's right. Yeah, if you haven't gotten to know River yet, he is an absolute blast, and kids love him, and he's been used in super powerful ways. We would love to continue our relationship with River and his investment here at the campus. So he's an intern. Let me explain a little bit what that means. The way we define intern is this. Interns work about 25 hours a week, and then they attend our Grace College program, that we have as part of Grace Church. So Grace Church houses an entire undergrad program. So you can get basically your whole college degree finished here at Grace. Most of it is housed at our Bath campus, one of our other campuses, right? We have 8 campuses, 6 of them in the area. But all of that can happen here. And so River right now is wrapping up his senior year at Grace College, and he with us is living, serving 25 hours a week as our student ministries intern. When he finishes that, when he gets his undergrad degree and finishes his internship, what River is going to want to do, and what we would want to do, is invite River to become what's called a resident. And here's how we define residency to help put some clarity on that. A resident at Grace Church works 40 hours a week. They're full-time, and they're full-time in our seminary. So we have a whole undergrad where you get your bachelor's degree, and then we also house an entire master's program where you can get your master's degree without ever having to leave town. It's actually incredible. It's an incredible opportunity. So what we would love to do from here to there is invite River to be a part of that and invest in him and ask him to become a resident here at Grace. He would serve in student ministries, and he would also help to catalyze some efforts around student ministries or young adult ministries. Right? As we explore that, we have a lot of college students and young adults here, and we would say, River, could you help us kind of get some of that moving and get some of that off the ground as part of your role here at Grace? So we would be thrilled to invest in River in a big way. And he has a ton of energy, has been meeting lots of you. I'm amazed always at how many people have already met River. It's kind of incredible, right? I'm like, somehow you met all these people before I did. This is crazy, right? So River is looking to become a resident. Here's just a snapshot real quick of our 30, we call them 30 and 30 interns and residents. So here's our current residents. His face would join this set of circles here in the next year. And then here are some of our interns. River would be on this picture. There he is right there. And these interns are across all of our campuses, or many of our campuses. And we would want River to join that, stay on that list there, and of course become a resident. So I wanted to, as we talk about kids and families and students, what I would love to do is I wanted to invite Pastor Aaron up, as Pastor Aaron is our pastor of family ministries and has a huge part to play. Why don't we give him a big round of applause, bring up Pastor Aaron. Awesome, thank you, Steve. Aaron, you have kind of a unique role here, man, as you've been at Grace for a long time. When did you come on staff?
So I came on staff January 1st in 2014, the day after I got back from my honeymoon.
Oh, wow. That was convenient. Yeah.
It was really convenient.
Welcome to real life. Here we go.
Yeah, you're like, okay, we're starting this now.
And you uniquely, you got kind of a neat experience because you were a resident, right?
Yeah, so I started my first working job in ministry actually as an intern.
Okay.
At Grace. So I got hired at the Bath campus in student ministries and actually moved through the intern and residency process all there until I started here at this campus in 2016-ish, like later 2016.
Yeah, you were kind of in the early generations of intern residency,
I was in the
right?
super organic version of what you're seeing there.
That's right, as it was being developed. Tell us a little bit about, coming out of college, you learned some theory. Help us understand, what did the residency specifically, what did that give you?
Yeah, so I would say, the whole experience was invaluable. And the main thing that was different from what a lot of people would probably normally do, what I thought that you should do is go to school, go to graduate school, and then you go work as a pastor somewhere. And what I actually ended up doing was starting as an intern and a resident after I had my graduate degree finished. I was immediately able to work in ministry, and all the things I was learning in graduate school, I had a ministry context that I was really in charge of to put them into practice right away. And so I was able to put those into practice, kind of try things out, learn things, we'll be honest, I made some mistakes, right? In kind of a safety net type of place, but man, it was invaluable because I got to do it right away as I was learning ministry.
Yeah, and everybody has to make those mistakes, right? So, but to have
Yes.
a place that you're kind of protected
Yeah.
and cared for and led, super powerful. Fast forward a bunch of years, now you're the pastor of family ministries here at the Akron East campus, and of course we get to share a bunch of leadership, which I love. Tell us a little about like when you look at families, students, parents, right, kids, that whole arena. There's a lot of opportunities before us. What gets you excited when you think about kind of this whole area of ministry?
Yeah, one of the things now is, we kind of have a dream team in my mind. So, fun little fact, like Hannah and I actually worked together as interns a long time ago, and we kind of went separate ways there for a little bit at different jobs. And I was like, long term, I was like, let's hire Hannah. Let's find a way to do that. We were able to do that, which was awesome. River was actually one of my students when I was working at the Bath campus. I had him in a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade life group in that zone. So those connections were great. And so I'm really excited about that team in general. We have a team to go do this with now. We have a building, right? We have a student ministry space over there, an entire gymnasium that we're ready to use. We're actually getting ready to move our high schoolers over there because this room is packed out now that it's cold and more people are coming. So there's all of this opportunity. We see families starting to come, babies, students. So I get really excited about just the physical space that's being occupied because I know that means that families and kids and students are starting to learn about Jesus, learn about kind of their value that he's given them and created them for. And I get excited about just preparing all of that together and kind of organizing ways for families to engage discipleship. And we, anytime we do something at our other building, I call them the parking lot kids. It's not what they are. They just play. Their backyards are at the parking lot of the other building, and so they're just always there. I did this as a kid, and man, when we were doing things, just to see the excitement from them. Any kids that they run across or we run into there, they show up to our sports camp that we did this year, our big event, our big party that we did over there. And man, it's just to see the excitement of things happening. I know that as soon as we start to develop this a little bit, students and families are excited about that.
They are. I remember when we met some neighbors right next to the new building. They were asking the first question. Really, they asked. Right, a guy in his mid-30s said, "Is there going to be anything for kids?" Yeah. Right, like first question out of his mouth is, "What's your name? Is there anything for kids?" And I think that is the cry of the community, right, in a big way. And we have obviously a big place to connect that way. There's been some really cool stuff happening at the middle school, at Higher Middle School. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I got a chance, I actually got introduced to this principal through the Ella Grace Brethren Church way back in the day, had a relationship with him, and he's since moved from the elementary up to the middle school. And so we started working with them. I had a chance this year to meet with the principal at Higher Middle School and just kind of ask, like, what are your needs? What could we do for the middle school? And really his biggest thing was, like, can you just be visible and available to students? And so I showed up one week, and then pretty much after that, I asked River, hey, can you like get some people together? River built a team of people and himself that are going over there. So we have someone at Higher for lunch every week, and we're starting to build relationship with students and the staff there. And they're just, I think, hungry for meaningful relationships. And the staff is super welcoming, and they know that the kids need adult relationships who care about them in their life. It takes more than one or two people anyways. And so just the opportunity that we see there and the kids wanting to do something, they're like, when is this thing? We'll pass out cards for events, and they're like, I'm coming to this, I'm bringing people.
That's awesome.
And it's just super fun to see that.
Love that. Love it. And I know, Aaron, that you have a big vision for parents, right? And not just that we would invest directly into kids, but that we kind of invest in parents and kids at the same time. Tell us a little bit about that vision.
Yeah, one of my biggest things that I think about a lot is, when we read the Bible and we see something in Deuteronomy, when it says, parents, write this on your hearts and then teach this to your kids as you walk, as you lay down. It's like all the time. And two things jump out to me from that. One is just the amount of work it is, right? I'm a toddler parent right now, and I'm just like, wow, how do people do this? Like, there's people that do more of these things. Okay, that's interesting. What's wrong with them? Mental illness. And so once I move past that, right, the first thing is just we know how hard that can be, right? If you are a parent, if you've been a parent, if you've been around parents, right, you can probably see it in their face. And the second thing is that I see that, man, you can see it in my face right now. You see that God has said he wants parents to do that because he knows that you are the best parent for your kids. There's no one else that he wants to do that role and no one else who can do it. It is you who disciples your kids, right? It's me who disciples my kids. And so as the church, what I get excited about is saying, how can we come alongside parents who are tired, who are trying to figure out how to organize this along their life? And so when I look at how to partner with parents, man, from the time your kid is born, we want to walk with you as you do that with your kids and provide opportunities, equipping, right? We want to find ways, we want to hear what you need help with and try to meet some of those needs. We can't do it for you. We don't want to, right? It's just the statistics of that just don't work out. We see them 30 hours, 50 hours a year or something, and parents get, multiply that by a ton. And so we're saying, how can we help parents do what God has asked them to do and come alongside in that way? So I get very, very excited about that, and we're continuing to build a plan with that. The people who just went through some of our child dedication stuff got a taste of like what that's going to be like. We're kind of building it a little bit and working on that family ministry side. But I get so excited about that because kids and students they're the church now, right? They are the holders of the culture. The whole reason that we are allowed to have iPhones as adults and there aren't laws against it is because of students and kids, because they will show us how to do it, right? We won't do anything dangerous, right? And they are holders of the culture. When we look at who changes that, who can fight against it, right? They are the ones who have the voices for that, and seeing them, my favorite thing is seeing them realize how much potential they actually have in high school. They're not in waiting. They're learning and growing just like us, but they have real impact in their worlds right now. And so for parents, my dream is like if you have students or kids and you don't have my phone number or email or Hannah's or Rivers, right? I want you to come meet us and get that, because it's going to be a matter of time if it hasn't happened, right? When you get a question about, man, what about sexuality in the world right now? Mom, I'm dealing with suicidal thoughts. And it's stuff that it can reel as parents. It's like we don't always know what to do. But to have a support and to have people who you can go to my job is to study that, right? And to have resources and to walk alongside you and to build relationship with kids. And really, we're just looking to be a unified voice with parents as they look to disciple their kids. That's my biggest goal. And man, if you aren't connected into our ministries and you have a parent of a middle schooler or high schooler, come find me after the service, and I would love to start that.
Love it. Well, Aaron, you're doing a fantastic job being a voice for parents, a voice for kids and students, and helping us continue to do all this work we've been describing here. Guys, let's give Pastor Aaron a big round of applause. Let's go. I can tell you as a first-generation believer, which is what I am, right? Raised as really an atheist and no church background, it was a daunting thing, and kind of still is, to raise human beings and teach them how to do life. Right? I'm like, how do you do this? And to have the context of a church with me, to have loving adults give me guidance and set an example for me and model it for me and invest and love my children has been an absolute game changer. And when I think about the work that we're doing for the next generation, I think of course, the kids, right? They are, as Aaron said, they are the church of today. I also think of the parents, right? I think of some of you who are like me, and you are first-generation believers. You are overwhelmed at the idea of how do I teach this little human how to live life? And we want to be in the thick of that with you. And we don't know all the answers, but we'll walk and wade into it with you and try to navigate God's word in a culture that is changing very, very rapidly. So guys, this next generation thing is huge, and it's why we prioritize it so much. We change in the process. We invest into the future in the process, and all of it is super, super important. I think all of it is very, very close to the heart of God. Now, as we think about all of this, at this point, we've kind of covered, if you've been through the journey with us, we have talked about community investment. We've talked about impacting our local community in a way that I'm not sure this community has experienced it in quite some time. We talked a lot about what it means for us to move, right? To move forward in our walk with Jesus. And of course, today we talked a lot about the next generation. This kind of is the scope of what we're talking about. Now we're coming to the part where we have to decide, how is God asking us to engage this or not? As we kind of wrap up this series and begin to bring this to a head, you and I have to figure out what part is God asking us to play and what part do we want to play in all of it. So here's a few things I want to do as we kind of wrap up our time here together. I want to put a few thoughts in a passage in front of you to really set us up to move into this last week of this conversation. Here's what we're talking about doing. What I'm, as clearly as I know how to do, what I'm asking you to commit to is this. I'm asking you to commit to growing. Right, it's all what we talked about last week. I'm asking you to think of this next 3-year window and to say, the main thing I'm going to give myself to is letting Jesus change me. Not to earn anything, not to win a relationship with Jesus, but because you already have one. Right? If you know Jesus today, I'm talking to you. If you don't know Jesus today, I would ask you, you can make the commitment to say, you know what, I don't know Christ, but over this next 3 years, I want to get to know him. I want to figure out who he is and figure out if I can invest my life in following him. Right? But I'm asking you to commit to growing. And if you pin me down, this is the one that's the most important to me. This I said it last week, I'll say it again. This is the no-fail one. As your pastor, what I care about the most is your relationship with Jesus. If that's not intact and not moving, the rest of it becomes far less relevant. And it's out of this commitment that the other ones should flow. Okay? So I'm asking you to pursue growth in your relationship with Jesus. The next one is this. I'm asking you to participate, to commit to participating somewhere in the vision in the life of the church. That could mean a bunch of different things. Could say, you know what, I'm going to finally become part of a life group. I'm going to finally pursue serving in Power Kids, investing in kids directly, or I want to investigate what does it mean to be helpful to student ministries. How do I help is a question. Guys, we have actually a ton of physical work to do on this building. And we actually are going to have an opportunity, if you know how to use a power tool or you enjoy lifting things that have moderate weight to them, we probably are going to need your help. Okay? Because we're going to do some of this ourselves. Because just to let you know, this thing we're talking about doing and investing in this building, it's not like going to buy a package off a shelf at Walmart or Target. The costs are changing exponentially. I'm told that to do what we're trying to do, if we would have done it 3 years ago, it would have been half the cost. Right? So we've got a moving target, and in order to save costs, I think we're going to have to invest together in doing some of the work ourselves. Some of you are like, let's go, right? You're fired up. You can't wait. But if you want to be a part of some of that, I need you to raise your hand and say, I'm in. I need you to tell me right here next week when we commit together. Right? Whether that's being a part of Restore and being a mentor or pursuing mentorship. Right? There's 1,000 ways to be involved. But the idea that I'm going to come and sit at church and never contribute my heart or my passion or my presence, that idea needs to go away. You don't have to be here at Grace. But if you're going to be, we're actually jealous for you. We're jealous for you to know you and have you be a part of things and have you show up in a very, very real way. finally, we're going to look at asking you to give financially. Of course, this is as a staff, we are all doing this as well. The reality is this project takes financial resources, right? It takes money to put drywall into a building. And so there's a principle that I want you to think about when you think about not just this one, but really all these, that I think we want to have in mind as we move into this next week. And here's a principle that shows up in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. Apostle Paul is talking to this church, and he says, remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. Whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give. Not reluctantly, not under compulsion. Here's the key, for God loves a cheerful giver. God loves a cheerful giver. Let me just say a few quick things about this passage that are really important. Paul isn't saying that if you sow $1,000 that you're going to be a millionaire and become rich and famous. That is crazy garbage that shows up on the TV. He's saying when we give ourselves, our time, our heart, our energy, our money, when we give that generously, there is a return on that investment. We don't always know how that return is going to look. That return might show up and change lives. That return might show up in a changed passion in my own heart. That return might show up in God providing for me and refilling what he's, right? There's all of those are possibilities. But he says, listen, if you sow sparingly, right, just by giving a little bit to this thing, a little bit of yourself, a little bit of your heart, then you're going to receive just a little bit back. If you go big, there's a reality that you're going to receive back. If we want to make a big impact, if we want to make big strides in our relationship with Jesus, if we want to make a big dent in reaching a lost and hurting culture, we can do that if we want to. But here's the key thing. I want you guys just to really hear this. If you're here at Grace and anything we're talking about today or anything we've talked about the last several weeks is suspect to you, and you would look and say, I don't know if I can trust Grace Church, I want you to understand clearly that I am asking you not to give financially here. If you're a follower of Jesus, here's what I would challenge you with. You need to find somewhere that you can give. You don't have to trust us and you don't have to be here, but let me help you find another church that you can give yourself to. That you can give yourself to the Lord through his plan of the local church. Okay, so listen. If you're not in or you got questions, we can try to answer them. Let us know. But if you're not comfortable, you're not here yet, don't be. That's okay. Let me help you close that out. Guys, if you are here, here's what I would love for you to do. As honestly as you know how, I would love for you to, in faith, ask God, Lord, what do you want? What do you want me to do? How do you want me to engage? How do you want me to participate? How do you want me to give? And I would love for you this week to have a little time with this pledge card, this pledge pack, read through it, understand it, how it works, and ask God, how can I be a part of this? We haven't talked a ton about the financial side of this. What we're talking about, this project is going to take about $600,000. Frankly, that's a fraction of the vision that we have. Right? We have millions of dollars of vision. But the immediate needs we're talking about for this project are $600,000, and we're asking you and I to give up and above what we're already giving over a 3-year window. So when you're thinking about this and praying about this, think about that pledge over a 3-year time frame. And this isn't just our normal giving. Our normal giving turns the lights on here and keeps everything moving. We need to keep doing that, right? We keep doing everything we're already doing. Everything we're talking about in this project is above what we're currently doing. So I'd ask you to pray about that and search your heart and be willing to be stretched in it. But here's the key. You want to be a cheerful giver. And I'll be honest, the number that God has put on my heart to give scares me a little bit. I'm probably going to have to start a new business again to make sure we, right? And here's the thing, if something happens, a medical thing happens, right? We'll figure all that out. But it's a faith thing. It's saying, God, I'm in. And what we're going to do is we'll take these pledges and we're going to make real financial decisions off of what's pledged here. Like we're going to go remodel the building, and some of that we'll have to borrow, right? So we're going to go to a bank and say the pledges of God's people are good, and we have a financial institution that's faith-based, that works with us, and they look at the pledges of God's people and say, that's worth banking on. And they let us move forward in working it all through. Okay? So this is where we're going to land today. God, what do you want me to do with this? Next week, what I'd love for you to do is to bring these back. If you lost yours or the dog ate it, we'll give you another one. Right? But if you can bring yours back, that would be helpful. And then together, as one body, we want to see if we can move forward with our heart and our time and our financial resources and offer them to the Lord in a way that I think will cause an incredible impact here in this community. Guys, I'm going to have the band come out, and love if you just pray with me as we sing and worship, close our time here together. Father, I count it a privilege today to be here in a place that I didn't expect to be, staring at opportunities I didn't expect to be able to embrace. I pray, Lord, for myself and for all of us, that you would help us to see the great opportunity right in front of us to light a candle in the darkness. Lord, as we worry and wonder and question what's happening, where it's all headed, we think about the future. Thank you, God, for giving us a clear way that we can move your will and your heart forward in a world that is so desperate for truth and for love and for the great name of Jesus. Pray for each and every one of us this week, Lord, that you would move in our hearts, clarify our role, how you want us to be a part of all this, and help us to move, Lord, from here to there. Be with us even now. It's in your name we pray.